Thank you everyone for joining us today for the State of Field Sales webinar here in 2022. We're super excited to share this information with you. My name is Jeff Grice and I'm with Veloxy. And we did a quick survey with field sales professionals as they were looking to pivot from pre-pandemic to now kind of in the middle of the pandemic and hopefully exiting the pandemic over the last couple of years plus. And so what we did as a G2 sales, field sales leader, we decided to go out and commission a survey with field sales professionals, asking them what's happened in the last couple of years, what they're optimistic about moving forward, and challenges and different strategies that they're looking to apply moving forward. So we're going to talk about the challenges, the optimism, some of the KPIs that field sales teams are tracking right now, and then also the skills and strategy necessary to have success moving forward in this new world. So with us today, we have some special guests. And again, we're going to talk about the findings of our report. And if you registered for this webinar, you'll receive the report after the event. And keep an eye out for this as well on your social channels. And we're also going to give you a recording of this webinar today, so don't worry about taking too many notes because we'll get the recording over to you as well. And then we're going to have a special winner of an Amazon gift card as well at the end, so stick around for the end for that. So let's get to the introductions. We've got an all-star field sales panel here today. Again, my name is Jeff Grice. We have Jim Chappell from DoubleEagle Management Group with us as well, and then also Greg Schoff from Tropicana Brands Group. So I'm the Director of Revenue for Veloxy, and my background is in technology, software, and sports. And prior to Veloxy, I spent 13 seasons working for the Detroit Pistons, had a great run in sports, and then most recently I've been involved in the B2B sales world and different industries across the B2B space. We also have Jim Chappell with us, like I mentioned, from DoubleEagle Management Group. And Jim, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure, thanks, Jeff. So I'm a Silicon Valley native and 40-year SaaS software guy, startups, later stage public company type and experience up and down the software stack. And over the last 15 years, been helping early and later stage companies with GTM strategy and running their sales organizations.
Very good. Thank you for being with us. And our next panelist is Greg Schoff from Tropicana Brands Group. Greg, would you mind introducing yourself to the crew?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So hello, everyone, virtually. Greg Schoff, Senior Sales Manager for Trop Brands Group, split off from PepsiCo more recently. Been in sales for roughly 15 years, worked for many different companies, obviously see a few on the slide. You know, anything from headquarters roles, the field sales roles, and all the way up. So it's been an interesting career, especially these last couple of years. But happy to be here today and talk a little shop with y'all.
Yes, thank you very much for joining as well, and just honored to have two gentlemen of your caliber joining our panels here today to give some great insights and perspective on what these field sales professionals are dealing with. And it hasn't been easy, right? I mean, every employee in every organization was affected by COVID and is still affected by this pandemic, and especially the field sales professionals out there because their entire go-to-market strategy was changed overnight. And so they've had to make a lot of adjustments on the fly, and they continue to make adjustments on the fly, and we're here to share some of those insights with you all today. So again, what you're going to get out of this webinar today is the findings from our survey. We actually got 500 respondents from this survey across a lot of different questions, talking about challenges and again, opportunities moving forward. And so we're going to share those with you now today. The first question is, what field sales challenges have you experienced the past 2 years? Number one was lower response rates, followed by longer sales cycles, and then fewer sales qualified leads. So gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind just giving a little commentary on what we're seeing here.
So I'll jump in. I think that for anyone who's wasn't selling video conferencing or remote work technology, I mean, they probably had a great couple of years, but most of the rest of us faced the challenges that companies were trying to figure out how to deal with that. So response rates and lack of engagement isn't terribly surprising to me. When I would speak to executives at the beginning of the pandemic, they were completely and totally focused on just how to enable their workforce to operate. And so this being a top challenge pretty much aligns with the reality that most sales organizations and salespeople felt.
Yeah, and I'll chime in as well. So, fully in support of Jim's response, even from my end in my industry. So one of the biggest, complexities that we've had to deal with these last, couple of years, call it, especially is, just responses in general, right? From folks, getting people, kind of activated in the conversation, whether it be someone in the store all the way up to someone in headquarters. And, they've just been so focused, to Jim's point, on keeping everything afloat, keeping everything, kind of humming. The challenge is, taking them away from that to focus on, some of the needs or maybe wants for their particular organization, and just dealing with ambiguity, right? It's just been crazy, chaotic times for the last couple of years. So I think a lot of folks are still trying to figure it out, in this virtual world. Hopefully some of it's coming back though. And that's going to be the key piece, is pulling them away, I think, as much as possible from virtual and getting them face to face again and getting back to that comfort level.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate you guys giving some perspective there. And, it's not a surprise. The longer sales cycles, fewer sales qualified leads are right behind, because of obviously less communication. The longer and more drawn out these processes are going to be. So definitely some challenges here, even as things open back up. So the next question we had was, what part of field sales are you most optimistic about for 2022 and 2023? And the answer was the ability to improve the customer experience in person. So obviously a great opportunity there now moving forward, that conferences are starting to happen again. People are more receptive to having people come out and again have that face-to-face interaction with sellers. And right behind that was employee morale improving, and then also the rebounding of field sales. So gentlemen, any comments on this one?
Yeah, so I'll start. So customer experience obviously has been important, will continue to be important, right? I think you could probably poll the audience, so to speak, even previous to these last 2 years and more recently, and this would probably be at the top. It's what differentiates, you from the rest of the pack, really, and providing that best experience possible, that out of the box experience, if you will, on top of that, if at all possible. So this is a big one. I think we're going to see a lot of other big ones here, right, in latter slides, but this is kind of at the top, and this is where it all starts for sure.
Yeah, it's I had my first in-person, face-to-face post-COVID conference again last week. I had the pleasure to be at the Snowflake Summit in Vegas, and it was fabulous to be with people again. And you could just feel it. Everyone was commenting on that. I know RSA was recently as well. So in person matters, because we all know that people buy from people they know and trust, and so that really is a big thing.
Yep, that's great. Next question is, which inside sales technology are you hoping to use in 2022? Obviously, with the pandemic, folks were not able to go out into the field and use some of that technology that they were used to. So they had to pivot and go back inside and use some of that tech, which is great. And having used it for probably the last couple of years or so, I'm sure some of it got adopted really well and wanted to use it moving forward back out in the field. The number one response was using sales artificial intelligence. That they had access to it as an inside sales tech stack and wanted to use that moving forward. Behind that is lead prioritization and guided selling. Guys, any comments on this?
Well, I think we're still in the early days of AI-enabled software stacks. I was involved in a company 10 years ago doing natural language processing, and I think that this is going to continue, and salespeople are just becoming more and more efficient because the software is getting smarter and is better able to enhance what they do every day, right? It's all about optimizing the interactions with prospects and clients. And so I think this makes a lot of sense, but I would also say we're early in the journey.
Yep, and similarly, like this is going to be the future, right? Without a doubt. I think some folks are maybe a little frightened of it. Some are super thrilled and excited about it. You know, I think it's a healthy balance because it's something new and different that, you know, is again, it's in the early stages, but clearly it's going to take off, especially over these next several years. To me, it's so critical and important no matter what sales role or position that you're in, because this is going to give you the ability to be dangerous and kind of dirty with data and you know, insights, if you will. So it's going to do a lot of work, a lot more efficiently, a lot quicker, hopefully, for the future. So when you're walking in to try and make that sale, you have those cold, hard facts to back it up, right? And you always will. So one of the big things that I feel like has become ever more important, especially more recently in anyone's sales career, is bringing that confidence level, trust, respect behind whatever it is that you're presenting at the end of the day. And one way to do that is, of course, data and statistics, right? And that's what's going to be a direct output of AI eventually. So hugely important, you know, among these other things for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a really unique time where we can use seller intuition, but also marry that with, like you said, the data and analytics to really have a better customer experience, which is really exciting. I want to pause here. Just now we're getting into the meat of this data from a survey, again, of 500 respondents to the field sales survey that we commissioned. To ask any questions you may have, audience, if you have any questions around some of these questions or some of the responses, go ahead and put a question in the chat box there, and we'll try to get to it throughout the presentation. So next question is, what field sales solution is missing from your tech stack? And number one was social media selling. People felt that that was missing from their tech stack. And from there, after that, it was geolocation or a lead finding capability out in the field, and then also Salesforce or CRM visualization out in the field as well. What do you guys make of this?
Yeah, so from a social media standpoint, it's just exploded, right? I think long gone are the days of only focusing on kind of old school tactics. And I'll just use like a circular that you can actually physically touch, you know, in your hand from my industry standpoint. I think they're still going to be present, important, but I think the way that you maximize reach and maximize knowledge of your product or service that you're selling is by social media, right? And it's a mixture of, you know, not only the LinkedIns and the Instagrams, but also the YouTubes, you know, everything under the sun. It's a full holistic approach at digital media selling that encompasses social media. So again, this is the future. I think if you're not comfortable with it, I would say get comfortable with it, because, you know, this is going to be, I think, also a more cheap and efficient way of, again, reaching that audience, right? However big or small it is that you're trying to sell to. So super critical and important, makes total sense to have it at the top.
Well, and as sales professionals, we all know that we need kind of tips, techniques, ways to make this easy. And the idea that you're able to walk into a meeting and have tools that kind of light up a recent post or a recent tweet or a recent video that the team you're going in to meet, the prospect you're going in to talk to, and you've got timely, relevant information, is going to really enhance the ability to build rapport, right? We all know that we have to build rapport at the outset of a sales journey. And one of the great things that the social media is able to do is to give us contextualized intelligence about the people that we're talking to today.
Yep, sorry about that. So thank you, Jim and Greg, for those comments. We had some good questions coming here just recently as we're getting into this. One of them is TikTok has relevance and is making some nice shorts and making people engage a little bit online with social media. Actually, I came across one today that I shared with my marketing leader that had me cracking up about scheduling a demo and a funny little short. So it's interesting how these different mediums keep popping up, and some of them gain traction and some don't. Some are fads, some are more long-term. But I think one of the keys here too is just it's relevant because it's usually in real time and it's timely. And if you can have a centralized way of accessing that, like you were mentioning, Greg, I think it's really powerful for field sales reps to have it kind of right in the palm of your hand, if possible, right? And have it be in a centralized fashion to just kick things off and have, again, build that rapport and trust and belief right at the onset of a conversation. One more comment from our audience was asking about any thoughts on clients or people out there who might be a little hesitant to going to these in-person conferences like you just were at, Jim, or maybe conducting a face-to-face meeting, because they still are a little bit in the early phase here of you know, exiting hopefully this pandemic, or just having things open up. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we're still going to see kind of bimodal engagement there. You know, we learned virtual during the pandemic, and organizations are going to continue to deliver on that. But, you know, I think that for most salespeople I know, they're eager to have, you know, face-to-face live interactions.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so, you know, we were completely virtual with our company for a period of time, and we're finally getting the merchandising and buying teams to be open and willing to meeting in person. Granted, you know, they all have kind of their own guardrails at times, but I've noticed, you know, a huge difference in impact meeting in person. I know it's tough. I know we've been through a lot these last couple years. But I would highly encourage, you know, trying to get back on the horse, so to speak. You just pick up so much more from an in-person meeting versus something, you know, over, unfortunately, a web interface or a web meeting that, you know, you can have. And yeah, it's, you know, there's no easy way of doing it. You just kind of have to jump in and start small if you need to. But I think the benefits and the pros definitely outweigh the cons, and you know it's paid dividends already from our company's standpoint and what we've been able to accomplish, you know, early on this year. So
that's good to hear. Good to hear. All right, so the next question is, which is the most important key performance indicator or KPI for your field sales team? And the response was customer satisfaction, coming in at almost 27%, followed by customer retention or attrition, and then followed by customer lifetime value.
Yeah, so for me, Jeff, customer satisfaction, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with some of these things that we've already talked about, right? You always want it. You always crave it. You always have to have it. Especially now, I think companies, you know, and folks just in general are constantly looking for, you know, who's gonna tug on the heartstrings, so to speak, and really kind of give a reasoning of why they should purchase this or go with this, you know, XYZ. So it's become even more important today than it has, you know, yesterday, because there has been so much noise that's out there. And I think, you know, from a loyalty standpoint, it's, you know, if a particular person or company or retailer, you name it, at one point had said, hey, we're, you know, our first in line is this particular manufacturer, for example, you know, that's kind of out the door now. They've kind of level set and leveled the playing field and said, hey, whoever's going to come and give me the best option, right, and have it make the most sense for the best price, et cetera, we're going to go with them, and we're going to, you know, put our chips, you know, towards them. So yeah, even more important today versus, I think, you know, yesterday, customer satisfaction being at the top and being number one.
And you know, I think we're far enough along from most sellers, many sellers certainly on the technology side of the equation, but so many others where we've moved into the subscription economy. And so in the subscription economy world, you have to drive customer satisfaction. You have to have customer success teams. You know, this is the lifeblood of every business, which really attenuates how sellers need to be able to engage and have to think about engaging with their prospects and clients, because it's a journey. It's not an event as it might have been in previous times.
Yeah, like Jim, what you mentioned earlier when we were meeting about this, talking about going from where software was sold in boxes versus bits, right? And not a surprise here, if you look at the top three, our customer facing or focused KPIs way heavily weighted over the others at the bottom of this list here. Thank you for that. All right, moving forward, what sales capabilities will drive the largest field sales improvement? And again, number one is customer experience, not a shock there. So field sales capabilities, when I look at this, I'll chime in here real quickly. So it's a very competitive landscape across all these different industries, especially right now. And part of the customer experience is the client's emotional experience and how they buy, right? So if you think about that, if you're going to take some notes, I would capture this one here, something I learned a while back and I like sharing with people. It's called the 5 questions of the client's emotional experience. So the client is thinking this of you when you're trying to sell them. Number 1 is, do I like you? Number 2 is, do you listen to me, Mr. Seller, right? Number 3 is, do you make me feel important? So that's an important one for obvious reasons, and I think it can be even more impacted by in-person meetings and interactions. So do you make me feel important? Number 4 is, do you get me and my problems? So you might have a fantastic offering, you know, a really shiny technology tool or something like that you go to market with, or one of the top brands in Greg's case, but do you get me and my problems? Is what you're having to offer something that I need a solution to? And then 5 is, do I trust and believe what you're telling me and sharing with me? So those are the 5 questions. And to win deals, you have to have a definite yes to all 5 of those, which is challenging in itself, but then also across every person in the buying decision team. So just something to consider as a sales capability moving forward. The buyer's asking for a lot, and you need to be equipped and be capable to fill their needs moving forward. Anything else you'd want to add there, guys?
I just think that, you know, we're all selling both function and emotion, right? We have to do both. And as sellers, we have to be mindful that both are a factor for every one of our buying personas.
That's a great call out.
Yeah, and again, like I guess I deal with it twofold from my industry, because typically I'm selling to not only a headquarters, but then also our brands are selling directly to the consumer. So it's, you know, I have to win the retailer first, and then more importantly, once I get into the retailer and they give me the green light, I have to win the consumer. And this just supports, you know, again, the importance of all that. I look at both as a customer at the end of the day, right? And I think if there's anything that's happened over these last 2 years, or it's, you know, people have been more in tune with everything that they eat, use, you know, you name it. So, you know, to both your points, you know, earlier, it's more of an emotional, you know, experience than ever before. I think based on the data that we've seen in our industry, you know, there is, and getting back to that loyalty aspect, there's a lot less loyalty today if you can prove out that, you know, emotion, that, you know, killer price tag, you name it. It has to be kind of a full holistic approach of you know, checking all those boxes that you said earlier, Jeff. But if you can do that, people are willing to go from this item, so to speak, to this other item, where before they may have never done that ever. So it's very interesting. It's a huge shift. It's a huge reset button, I think, that we're dealing with today, which again just opens the opportunity for folks like us in sales to get a better shot at whatever it is we're selling. So it's a true testament of don't back down. You know, if you get a no, go back again and figure out another angle, because sure as heck, you know, now's the time to really capitalize on everything that's happened and what's to come. So,
yeah. Another comment from the audience, they said with this focus to customer experience, right? So much of that is higher quality products in the industry. Are we losing out on higher service, higher customization, maybe support from sales orgs with, you know, lesser perceived quality product? You know, does that make sense?
I think that I've always taken, I've got enough gray hair. There was a guy by the name of Jeff Moore that wrote a book called Crossing the Chasm. And he was the first person I ever read that talked about whole product, right? And whole product reality means that you've got products, you've got the people bringing the products to you, you've got the services and support capacities. And so for many products and many selling teams, we have to think what the whole product problem our clients are having and what role our particular you know, item has. While, you know, I'm sure Greg would like orange juice to be all of breakfast, you know, we actually we have other foods that we utilize in that experience.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Thank you, audience, for these questions. Keep them coming if they come to you. Next here from the surveys, what's the most important to your field sales team's success moving forward in 2022 and 2023? And again, it was customer experience, followed by sales communication and sales technology and sales acceleration, followed by revenue growth. So again, not a surprise here, folks. I think this is a common theme throughout this these findings, but obviously it all starts and ends really with the customer experience, and then obviously sales communication is pretty close, you know, not too far behind.
And it seems that the structure of this question really, because it was a ranking, they're all pretty similar, pretty close. It's just customer experience is a bit ahead. You know, we need to do all of these things.
Yeah. Yep. All right, moving forward here, what percentage of your time would you like to spend on the following activities? So again, what percentage of your selling time would you like to spend on the following activities? Number one is improving reach and accounts, followed by sales communication, sales technology, sales acceleration. Now, I should have prefaced this before I showed the results, actually. So this question, all of these categories were listed, and then you gave what percentage of your time within these categories. So that's why you see that they're very close in the amount of time, but improving reach and accounts ranked number one.
Yeah, and I'll chime in here. So, you know, for me, I think this is also, of course, super critical. You know, you want as many people in the room, so to speak, that are going to make the decision right out of the gate, right? And for me, again, it's kind of a double-edged sword where I want the most reach with the business that I'm talking to, the retailer that I'm talking to, in order to get in and get it on shelf. But then I also want to maximize the reach to the customers. So kind of similar to what we were talking before with social media, right? Like how do we get that voice and that knowledge and that product information out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. So, I mean, this is, again, just so important, because what I've experienced is if you don't have, you know, the reach, right, you're just going to be doing double, triple, quadruple work, because you're having to go back, re-explain, reassess, resell to other folks to get them on board, or other customers to get them on board. So, yeah, to me, again, all of these are equally important, but it makes a lot of sense why this is on top and number one.
Well, I was just reflecting on the fact that one of the aha moments for one of the sales organizations I led was that we had 3 different decision makers essentially for the security technology we were selling at some number of years ago. And we got to a point where I would tell the sales team and we would kind of engage with people. And if we didn't have everyone in the room, then we're probably wasting our time, or if we didn't have a clear path to everyone in the room. So for sales teams, you know, the whole world of account-based marketing kind of leans into this as well. Account-based selling, you need to know all the personas that you're selling to, and thus reach does make a lot of sense, both at the marketing level and then obviously at the day-to-day sales level.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And I think we've all been there, right? Where we thought we had the right person or maybe the right group and something was lacking and we had to restart or maybe lost it all together. And it's really frustrating. And I'm glad to see that the field sales professionals that we surveyed on this are aware enough of this to make it number one, because I think it's number one for a reason, right? So very good. Well, again, Jim, Greg, thank you for joining us today. It's been a fun conversation. I hope our audience got some value out of this. I appreciate the questions that came in. We're going to get the report out to you guys. It's a nice PDF from the findings from this survey of 500 respondents. If you guys want to reach out to me personally, you can reach me at jeff@veloxy.us. And of course, you can follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy your weekends.